Hey, you guys. So I was just in the gym and had, that's where I do my best thinking, that or the pavement. I can't run right now. So I was just up under some weights and I was going through some conversations that I've had with some folks over the last couple of weeks, some things that have been said to me, some things that have been said about me, some things that have been shared with me in private conversation and out in the open, some things that my friends and family are going through, some mindsets that my family and friends are in. And I just was overwhelmed with the thought that we've all been there. We've all been in these times where we feel lonely, rejected, unloved, unvalued, unworthy, fat, ugly, annoying, dumb, disposable, and confused and imbalanced. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to tell you who God is for you and who He is to you and who you are to Him in those moments. Just in case you forgot. You may be out there and you're a young teenager and you go to school and you have it all. Your parents have money. You got a car before you were 16. You never have to even have a job because your parents just openly give you money. And you go to school and you have all the right friends and you are popular and you have it all. And then in here and in here, you feel empty. And you beat yourself up about that because you believed for so long that things and stuff is value and worth. And so because you have all this stuff, you can't quite make sense of why you don't feel whole and valued on the inside. I want to tell you that God says it's okay. That He's not sitting there looking at your life going, my gosh, aren't you more thankful? Good grief, there's children starving. And no, He's not doing that. In the midst of your emptiness, He is there, consistently and constantly reminding you of how there's not a single space within you that lacks anything, and that all of Him is tied up in all of you, and that everything you want for your life is important, but the most important thing is your worth and your wholeness in your believability about your value. I want to remind you He's there. You may be a young person and you go to school and you feel like nobody notices you. And I mean, you feel invisible. Your teachers don't notice you. The principal doesn't notice you. Your parents hardly notice you. And you just get by. And at the end of the day, you feel completely alone. And you can't quite imagine that someone like you would be worth it. I want you to know that God says it's okay that you have those feelings, and that in every moment that He is never ever far from you. In your deepest, darkest, loneliest moments, He is there in the middle of it with you, and that He's not afraid of your feelings, and that there's no amount of loneliness, nothing you can do to push Him away. He will forever and a day remind you that you are whole and you're worth it to Him. Maybe you're a mom out there and you've lost it with your kids. I mean, you have royally screwed up. You have made some horrible decisions. And you think to yourself, how could God ever forgive me? And I want to remind you that God's heart is that you would forgive you. And while you're so focused on this thought process of your dad forgiving you for messing up against your children and against yourself, He wants to remind you that you're missing the boat. And you can beg and plead and holler all you want because the forgiveness is already and always yours. But it is this right here, looking in the mirror, that will continually catch you on the blind side. You've got to forgive yourself, and He has already done so, so that means you're free to do it. He wants to remind you that He's not afraid of your mistakes, and that nothing you've done has caused Him to want to walk away from you. You're His daughter. You might be a guy out there and you've had more girls than you can even keep count of. You might be a girl out there who've had more guys, or girls and guys and whatever, than you can keep count of. God wants to remind you that your body is valuable because it's tied to your spirit and it's tied to your mind. And in every single moment, He will continually remind you that you are important. And that somewhere along this journey, when you realize that, it will change what you do with all this. But that you don't have to hide from Him, because He's not afraid. He's not afraid of what you've done or where you've been or what you've done with when you got there. And He wants to remind you that you're important to Him. Maybe you're a mom or a dad and you've grown up and your kids are all grown and you don't get to see them as often. And back when you were younger, you had a whole bunch of friends, and now you find yourself lonely. You find yourself looking around saying, what have I done with my whole life? Like, is this all I have to show for it? And God wants to remind you of your journey. He wants to remind you of what you've overcome to get here. He wants to remind you of those desires inside your heart that He has clearly put there. And you keep ignoring them, thinking that you should continue to wallow in your sadness of, is this all there is? He wants to remind you to chase a couple of those dreams, because He's going to be right there holding your hand. Maybe you're out there and you've spent your whole life chasing a religious mindset, and it has kept you bound, afraid of hell, wondering if you're good enough for heaven, and somewhere in the middle hoping to goodness that this God you call God is even real. He wants to remind you that another time and another place is never going to bring you life, and that as long as you're continuing to look for something else outside of this moment, you will always come up short, whether it's the heaven or the hell that you're thinking about. In every moment, all you have is this moment. He wants to remind you that it's okay, you've spent some time doing that, and it's all about the journey. And He's not mad, and He's not afraid of your questions. He wants you to ask Him questions. He's your Abba. He's your daddy. He wants to answer those questions. If you're out there and you don't even believe in God, I just want to remind you that He believes in you. And if you'd like to maybe talk about an unconditional Father who just wants to love you, that's it. He wants to show you the best parts of this life. I would be glad to talk with you. And I promise you, it doesn't involve any manipulation or any threats of anything outside of this moment with your dad. Maybe you're out there and you just need to hear, I love you. God loves you. That's good news. And all the lies that you've heard about Him not being able to handle your mess, and that years of not wanting Him to be your dad has somehow made Him not want to be, do not scare Him. He's your Abba. He's your Papa, your daddy, Pops, your Father. And God loves you. And so do I. Hope all that rambling stuff spoke to somebody. You guys have an absolutely beautiful night.